So I watched Apocalypto, and even that movie poster is fantastic. So this takes place, this takes place in the Mayan civilization, I guess around maybe like 1300. No, it's probably 14, maybe 1500 so. And so it centers upon these like suburban Native Americans in the Yucatan area who are Mayan. They're the Mayan civilization, and you could tell that there's common culture between everyone involved in this movie, and in the way their jewelry is, the way they treat their ears, and so forth. The piercings and body modifications that they do. They're all part of the same culture. But Jaguar Paw and his father Flint Sky, and so many good names like Turtles Run, so many great names in this movie, and it's a fantastic movie. And so you come in on these guys, and they're hunting a tapir, which is native to the region, the Yucatan Peninsula. They're hunting a tapir, and they do a kill, and then there's a scene where they play a joke on another guy's. And I'll be honest with you, this is something when EK and I were talking about, like what makes a movie not EK approved, and I think this one's approved for EK. And I was like, at what point if you see somebody eating something gross, do you gag? Because there's a scene in here that makes me gag every single time I watch this movie, in the very beginning of the movie, and it's almost one of those ones where it makes me want to turn it off. But it's all a joke. It's all they're playing a joke on another guy, and then it leads into another. Seriously, from one joke into another, they prank this guy like over and over again, and in many ways, that's very characteristic of Native American culture. They were kind of pranksters. They didn't have iPhones. They didn't have PlayStations. They just played jokes on each other. And that's, it created camaraderie. And if they were good fighters, they were fighters because they were all constantly fighting each other at the same time, And that was just a way of their culture, And then you come back to town with the kill. Oh, wait, no, they ran into this other tribe that was moving past. And they obviously spot each other. And when they confront each other, they just say, hey, this is our forest, and so forth. And then they offer a trade, like some fish, and they hand him a piece of the tapir. And then that shows, oh, okay, we can be cool. And they're like, we just want to pass through and find a new life. And it's like, okay. And then they go back to the village, and they rest up. And then the Mayans from the city, all right, and this whole movie should be, is like why cities have always been nuts. Why cities have always been bad for society. And so they, like in the next morning, these Mayan city folk, they jump Jaguar Paw's tribe and like take a bunch of captives. People die. It's horrific. This is a lot of like questions EK wanted to know. It's like, how much blood are we talking about? So I told him I think it's EK approved. And so they capture a bunch of these guys, and Jaguar Paw is one of them, and they get taken into the Mayan city. Now, like 90% of everything we know about Mayan culture comes from like what we studied in the cities. And when you get to the cities, you see this place is a terrible place. It's run by these, aristocrats that are higher in their own farts. Their society is crumbling because they probably have too much people in a small area that they're trying to feed, and so they're like the crops are dying. There's a disease going on because there's so many people close together, And so what do they do to fight this horrible thing that they're going through, this horrible time? They start sacrificing people, cutting their hearts out, and Jaguar Paw is one of them. All right, and there's a nice little scene when they capture and get to the city where the mother-in-law of one of the other tribe members, I forget his name, who had been bugging him to produce a grandchild for her. He's like, get in there and bang my daughter kind of thing. And it's always making fun of him and so forth. But then they get to the city where the males were taken to be, sacrificed, and the females were taken to be sold into slavery. And they put the mother-in-law up there, and they try to sell her, and like nobody wanted to buy her, so they just let her go. They cut her free. And it's kind of interesting because like every single character like cared about their bloodline, cared about their society, such as it was. And, and these things mattered to people. Like forefront in their lives. This is my son. He's going to hunt this jungle with me until after I'm gone. He and his sons are going to hunt this jungle after I'm gone. That was foremost on everyone's mind in this story. And a lot of people aren't like that these days. There's a lot of people that are going to die alone because they chose to focus on the wrong things in this world. Jaguar Paw, he gets a nickname on the way to the city. He gets a name Almost, where he almost got killed. And the name really kind of, it's fitting because he is almost so many times in this movie. He's almost done. He's almost winning. He's almost done. He's almost winning. And it's really fantastic. And when you talk about scenes where it shows that these guys are running for 2 days, they're chasing Jaguar Paw through the jungle for 2 days. It shows the capability of the human body and spirit, because that's how we, are a better design than deer and stuff like that. They can run fast, but only for short periods of time. But humans, with their will, they can run until like their muscles are atrophying. All right, it's not good. It's not healthy to do that. But if you're being chased by a bunch of Mayan city weirdos with a strange sense of style and a murderous appetite, when you're running, hey, you find the strength deep down. You know what I'm saying? Roll over and die? No, thank you. I don't want to spoil any of the ending because I think EK might be interested in actually seeing this. I hope he doesn't get mad at me. There's a scene with his wife. His wife was pregnant, and she's taking care. He hides her when the city folk come, and she's taking care of the oldest child, and she's pregnant with another. And she, even she was tough, like super tough. And it wasn't a thing like where it's a tiny little 5'2" girl in a movie where she's kicking the crap out of 7 Russian mobsters. She's tough in the tasks that she has at hand. Her son's got a cut. She got to deal with that. They need something to eat. She's got to deal with that. She tried to escape from the hole. You got to deal with that. It's like, oh shit, I'm going into labor. Got to deal with that. So I mean, these people were tough in a way that so many people these days cannot understand. And most of what we know from Mayan culture comes from the aristocrats that we saw in the city. And the problem with Jaguar Paw is he saw these suburbs, another group of suburbs that apparently were fishermen, passing through his, and like, our lands got ravaged. We're heading to find a new life. And so he he kind of listened to it, and it showed that Jaguar Paw is like a deep thinker. He's sitting there like at the fire, like listening to a story, and his wife's like, come back to me, because he's sitting there thinking about stuff. And being a deep thinker, and also being like incredibly physically capable, all that stuff. Like I said, nobody had smartphones. All they could do was think about all day is like keeping alive, keeping me and my family alive. So, is there a happy ending? Kinda, I suppose. I mean, some terrible things happened when the Spanish arrived. You know what I mean? And I don't mean the fact that they just came in and started wiping out. It's like, no. But the disease, like the introduction of disease to each other and so forth, that was a big problem. And it was destined to happen no matter who got there first. So it's a shame. And I listened to Matt Walsh talk about like the true story of the American Indian, and it's quite accurate. And but it doesn't mean you can't appreciate the day-to-day lives that these people lived in. Can't help where you're born. Jaguar Paw could have been born in somewhere in Spain, growing up with arquebuses, matchlock rifles. Anyway, amazing story, fantastically shot. There were some like shots I was like, wow, how did they get that? And it's just the beauty of like Central America. The jungles and all the very dangerous things that live within, like jaguars and snakes and so forth. And these are the concerns, poisonous toads. There's all these concerns you got to worry about, and there's still people fighting each other. And there's scenes where these guys are like fighting each other, and then they just happen to step on a snake. Snake bites one. It's like, he's done. And it feels like a hollow victory, because that's the kind of world they lived in. But 12 of 13 stars. Almost got 13 stars. Now, here's my gripe. Reading. The problem is reading. I want to see the movie. I'm glad there wasn't a lot of conversation in scenes there where stuff could be shown. instead of, told through reading. But it's all spoken in the Mayan language, I assume. I mean, who sussed that out? It was like, how are we going to construct a Mayan language? Do Mayans still speak it? Do Mayan people still speak it? I hope so. But I mean, it's when there's a lot of action going on, you don't want to be reading a whole lot. But it's a weird kind of thing. It's like no matter what they did in this regard, they were going to lose a star. Like, I'm pissed off because I had to do all the reading in the movie. All right. But if they had dubbed it all in English, I would have still taken a star away because it's in English. It doesn't make any sense. They're Mayans. They should be speaking Mayan. So it's kind of a double-edged sword trying to get a review from me because, it's real hard to get that 13th star, isn't it?
The madman loves you all, from the big to the small. He loves you from afar, no matter who you are. The madman loves you all.